Some backstory. My real father, bio-dad, cheated on my mom and was abusive to her. He was never really in my life. My stepfather, who I consider my real dad, has been there for me my whole life, raising me and being the man I needed. Bio-dad only reached out to me when I was a teen, and by then I wanted nothing to do with him. Over the years, I've randomly run into him, but it's always been a quick hello and goodbye. He never made any effort to be a real parent. He also conveniently pretended to be broke until I turned 18. Barely, if ever, paid child support. Then he suddenly opened a business, became a multimillionaire and bought 2 houses. I'm 30 and he reached out again through Facebook and started calling me. This time he offered to buy me a house, but only if I agreed to see him at least once a month. I immediately said no. It feels like he's trying to buy a relationship with me, and honestly I don't want one with him. If he truly cared, he wouldn't be putting conditions on it. For context, my husband and I aren't rich, but we're not struggling either. We're paying off our mortgage, and while things can be tight sometimes, we make it work. We have toddler kids and we're building our life together. A free house would obviously be amazing, but at what cost? I don't want my kids around someone I don't trust. I don't want to force myself into a relationship that makes me uncomfortable just because he suddenly decides he wants to play dad now that I'm an adult. My husband thinks I should suck it up and see him once a month if it means financial security for our family. He's not pressuring me, but he's frustrated that I won't even consider it. But to me, this isn't just about money. This is about someone who abandoned me, never cared for me when I needed him, and now suddenly wants access to me because he's rich. It feels transactional and insincere. Am I the idiot for refusing the house and standing my ground? Not the idiot. Your bio-dad isn't offering you a gift, he's trying to buy a relationship on his terms. After years of neglect, he doesn't get to waltz in and expect you to play along just because he dangled a house in front of you. Your instincts are right. If you don't trust him and don't want him around your kids, no amount of money is worth compromising your boundaries. Your husband may see it as a financial opportunity, but he's not the one with the baggage tied to this relationship. You're protecting your peace, and that's more valuable than any house. Would it be your house with no strings attached? He would pay for it outright, only your name on the paperwork with him holding zero legal holding to it. In that case, I would consider it back child support for the 18 years of being a deadbeat, and once it's a done deal, continue to treat him like the stranger he is. I get the morals and what you teach your kids, but in this climate, owning a home outright may be the only way to build a legacy for your own kids. Or he's reaching out now because he's sick or wants to build a relationship so you can take care of him when he's older. Also transactional. I'm not sure what the rules are in your state, but now that dad suddenly has money and assets, your mom should start consulting an attorney to see about putting a claim for back child support in, as I know sometimes deadbeat dads get hit with tax returns and social security auto deductions. My husband, 34 male, and I, 31 female, recently had our first child, a son we named Elijah. We put a lot of thought into his name, we loved the meaning, and it felt right. My mother-in-law, 62, had no strong opinions about it at first. She didn't gush over it, but she also didn't object, or so we thought. The first time she met Elijah at the hospital, she looked at him and said, "Oh, little David, you're so perfect." I thought I misheard her, so I ignored it. But then she said it again. I asked her, "Who's David?" She smiled and said, "Oh, it suits him better." I was too exhausted from labor to argue. Still, over the next few weeks, she kept calling him David, texting us things like, "How's my little David doing today?" or "Give David a kiss for me." I told her firmly that his name was Elijah. She laughed and said, "Oh, I know, but I think he just feels like a David." Neither my husband nor I know anyone named David. It's not a family name. There's no sentimental reason behind it. She decided to call my child a complete random name despite us telling her not to. At first, we tried to let it go, hoping she'd stop if we ignored it, but it only got worse. When we FaceTimed her, she'd coo at him saying, "Grandma loves you, David." She even started knitting a baby blanket with the name David embroidered on it. The final straw was when she came over for a family dinner and kept referring to him as David in front of everyone. My sister-in-law asked, "Wait, why do you keep calling him David?" And my mother-in-law just laughed and said, "Because that's his name to me." That's when I lost it. I said, "No, his name is Elijah, and if you can't respect that, you don't need to be here." She rolled her eyes and tried to wave me off, but I wasn't having it. I told her to leave. She looked shocked, but she left without much of a fight. Now my husband is upset with me. He agrees that his mom was being weird and disrespectful, but he thinks kicking her out was too extreme and that I should have just let it go. Mother-in-law is now playing the victim, telling everyone that I'm keeping her grandson from her over a harmless nickname. Some family members think I overreacted. Others agree that her behaviour was bizarre. I don't know. Was I really in the wrong for putting my foot down? Am I the idiot? This is weird damn behaviour and your feelings are valid. I also find it odd that your husband thinks you overreacted, but you just told her to use the correct name or leave. It sounds like she made her choice and now she's angry with you. Only call your husband by the wrong name for a week and see how he likes it. Not the idiot. It's time to start calling her witch because it suits her better. Ask her if David was an affair partner and your husband's real father. You are not an idiot. It's not just the name, but the constant brushing you off when corrected. And then the eye roll. She needed something shocking. You need to think of a name other than Grandma. Elijah has a grandma, but David doesn't. If she calls him David, actively call her by her first name. Yes, come up with a bad grandma name for her, or start referring to her as Mrs. Last Name to your baby. For example, you're FaceTiming with her and she calls the baby David. You look at the baby and say, Elijah, isn't Mrs. Smith silly? Mrs. Smith doesn't even know your name. That's silly Mrs. Smith. She will catch on that this is what the baby will call her when he begins to talk. LOL, your mother-in-law is completely out of line. Your husband is a coward. This is a huge red flag in your relationship. So I'm 29 male and I have a girlfriend 28, and we've been dating for the past 1.5 years. She has 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother, all of whom are these we are men dudes. Now her brothers are decent guys. I've been around them long enough to know that they just live in that headspace where every man should be big and strong. I'm 5'9", but I'm on the stocky side. Since I first met them, they've always commented on the fact that their sister shouldn't date a guy shorter than them. They're also super big on UFC, drinking and working out, which I'm fine with working out in UFC because I like these other than drinking. They always comment that she should be with someone who's a tough guy and not a French guy. I'm half French from my mother's side, who are perceived as cowards, etc. Last week on Saturday, they had a family get-together of around 20 to 30 people, and I was invited to join. Late into the party, they started saying that she should have been with one of her exes, as they liked him for being a big, strong guy. I was a bit hurt by the comment and pushed back. Rather than backing down, they said if I could beat them in a wrestling match, they'd consider me a man. I initially didn't accept, but I think I didn't want to be perceived as a coward. Now, the thing is that they don't know that judo is big in France, and I was pretty active in the national judo circuit until I was a teen, but had to move to the US with my parents. 3 years ago, just before I started dating her, I started getting back into BJJ, and I'm just a lowly blue belt, but I train like 4 or 5 days a week only as a hobby. They think BJJ is gay and even made fun of me for that. So getting to the moment, we square off, and without hurting them, I could easily take them down and pin them with, and this repeated for all of them. There was a stunning silence at the party and the mood turned sour, so I took my leave. The next day, my girlfriend started saying that you have no right to humiliate them when they're just being playful with you. I know you train BJJ, but they were friendly. I told them I didn't hurt them and was not initially interested in wrestling with them. Also, I explained to her that I could have used a strangle or a joint lock to hurt them, but I simply kept them pinned. It apparently has hurt their manhood, and my girlfriend is just being an overall insensitive person about it. She's now going on this whole tangent of me being insecure and how I had to prove myself and humiliate her brothers to feel like a bigger man. I'm usually a quiet person, but I don't understand how I approach this situation. Not the idiot. For heck's sake, dude, do you really want to spend your life dealing with these adult children? Does she ever have a problem with her brothers treating you like this, attempting to belittle you, comments on how her ex was better? Did she ever once tell them to shut up? Tell her her family is weak and they need to hold daddy's hand to cross the street, then dump her. I'm willing to bet that OP has something keeping her around. Money, assets, great job, connections, etc. Pick one or more. Because she's obviously perfectly okay with her brothers constantly ridiculing him and insulting him. A proud partner wouldn't let family or friends insult their loved ones. A proud partner would be happy that he finally shut them up. They'll never pull that weak man nonsense towards OP ever again. Update: she was waiting for me outside my apartment saying she wanted to talk. She started saying that it was embarrassing for her that her brothers and boyfriend got into a fight, which I told her was not a fight but something initiated by her brothers. She doesn't even seem to think that they're at fault, and to quote her, they were a little intoxicated, so you, being sober, should have been the mature one and ignored them. I asked her if she planned to stop them if they went too far, and she said yes, I would have because I know you don't like to do all this. The only answer I had was that you didn't do anything and have been only a silent observer in the bullying. To which she started huffing and being like, don't make everything about bullying or whatnot. You're being too sensitive and whatnot. I told her the way she's been acting, I don't think I'm interested in continuing the relationship. To which she started saying, you are gaslighting me, or whatever term she could think of from TikTok she could throw at me. She started crying and said I thought you cared for me and called her brothers to apologise to me and said to hash out the issue, which I'm not currently interested in doing. So, as of now, I've decided we're on a break and I couldn't stay in my apartment or else she would have been persistent in talking with me. Her brothers are now blowing up my phone with messages like, come on dude, we're over that. You proved yourself, cut us some slack. But maybe I've been too lenient with them all along. So, they are blocked. A few years ago, my 35 male grandparents passed away and left behind a beautiful but very run-down lakeside cabin. It had been in our family for generations, but by the time it was passed down, it was in rough shape. The wood was rotting, the roof leaked, and the plumbing was ancient. My parents, not wanting the hassle, offered it to my younger brother Matt, 30, first since he'd always talked about how much he loved the place growing up. At first, Matt was excited, but when he saw the actual state of the cabin, he quickly changed his mind. The renovations would cost tens of thousands of dollars, and the upkeep was more than he was willing to commit to. He told my parents that he wasn't in a position to take on such a big project and that it was too much work for a vacation home, so they turned to me. I thought about it for a while, and even though I knew it would be a lot of work, I loved that cabin. I spent almost every summer there as a kid, fishing with my grandpa and roasting marshmallows with my cousins. It meant something to me, so I took it. The thing is, taking ownership wasn't just signing some papers, it was years of work and tens of thousands of dollars. I had to replace the roof, reinforce the foundation, fix the plumbing and completely redo the deck, which was one bad storm away from collapsing. It became my after-work project, but it also became a major financial commitment. Every spare dollar I had went into fixing up that place. I've asked my family to help out many times, whether financially or physically, with labour, but no one ever did. Fast forward to a few years later, and Matt reaches out saying he and his wife want to take their kids on a summer vacation and would love to use the cabin for a week. I told him sure, but he'd need to contribute $500 to cover utilities and general wear and tear. He flipped out. He said I was being greedy for charging the family and that the grandparents wouldn't want the cabin to be a business. I reminded him that he had the chance to take ownership and he chose not to because he didn't want the responsibility. Now that I've poured my time and money into making it a livable space, it's not fair for him to expect a free vacation just because we share blood. He argued that it's not like you're paying rent on it and you were going to be there anyway, but that's not the point. Where do I draw the line if I let him stay for free? Do I have to offer it to every cousin, uncle or second cousin twice removed who wants a weekend getaway? If Matt contributes nothing but gets free access, doesn't that mean I'm basically paying for his vacation? Now our mom is involved, saying I should do the right thing because family helps family. I told her that Matt was offered the cabin first, and he said no because it was too much work. I had then asked for financial or physical help, and he also denied it. He didn't want to deal with the responsibilities, he just wanted the benefits now that I'd taken on all the costs. Matt hasn't spoken to me since, and our mom keeps telling me I'm being unfair. Am I the idiot for expecting him to chip in, or is he just entitled? Not the idiot. Matt and Mom didn't contribute, so between them, they have zero say and you should have zero concerns to give. Family helps family seems more like family uses family. Ask your mother to be specific about how you're being unfair. Ask her why Matt enjoys something for free when he denies all requests for help. Ask her what about Matt getting a holiday that you've paid for and own outright is unfair. I'd bet money that she doesn't have an answer. She would just let you be a doormat rather than deal with your brother. Her answer would be, because he's family, because it would upset the memory of your dead grandparents, because people will talk, because, here's the big one, it's just easier for her and let's just sweep this under the rug and don't rock the boat, and it'll just shut your brother up. Her only answer will be, because this is how I feel, not about right or wrong. Maybe a good time to go over the classic children's story, The Little Red Hen. If you do not help pay for the cabin and will not help repair the cabin, then you don't get to play in the cabin. Actually, OP, it's your cabin. Change the locks and take it off the table. A good friend of mine is going through this and it's a thankless job. I have a friend, let's call her Sally, who's been going through some tough times. Sally split from her boyfriend last year when she caught him cheating. They'd been together for over 2 decades and he was very wealthy. Sally was a homemaker while they were together, and when they split, she was left with literally nothing. Since the split, she's relied on the kindness of friends to get by. She's mostly been staying with one friend in particular, but lots of her friends have been pitching in to help meet her needs. Currently, she's attempting to support herself by finding work as a freelance artist, which she calls hustling. Most of the money she makes immediately goes back into art supplies. I live in a different state from her currently, and I'm barely scraping by myself, with a child to care for, so I've not been able to help her financially. Instead, I just try to be a sympathetic ear for her to vent to, and I've let her know that I don't mind her venting to me. It's also important to note that when she was with her ex, yesterday we were talking on the phone and she mentioned that she couldn't afford food. She said that for the past few days she's barely eaten anything and she doesn't want to ask the friend she's staying with for food because she feels like that friend is already doing too much. I mentioned that she should look into some local food banks in her area, and she became extremely offended. She said, "You know, you just think that with all the people I've helped over the years, I wouldn't have to turn to that. It's embarrassing." I told her I wished I could help her, but I only had $100 until the next payday and I had to put my child first. I offered to help her by doing some Googling for her about her options, but she insisted that taking food from a charity was embarrassing and unacceptable. I reminded her that everyone goes through difficult times and that asking for help is not embarrassing. I asked her if she looked down on her friends who had needed help over the years, and she said that she didn't, but that she just wasn't used to being the person in need. She ended the call saying she needed to return to work, and I get the feeling that I offended her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your friend was with her partner for almost 20 years and she got nothing from him. Your friend needs a reality check. She needs a real job that pays a salary. Being a freelance artist is all good in theory, but clearly it's not supporting her. The kindness of those helping Sally is going to wear thin soon. Her real problem is that she needs the reliable income of a traditional job in her desperate position. 9 to 5 crap. Stamp a time card and collect a check. But I'm sure that's equally embarrassing. If they were together for 20 plus years, she's probably at least in her 40s or 50s, and it'll be extremely rough getting hired for anything other than fast food at that age with no job history. That said, she must work fast food if she doesn't want to starve.